Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a deeply fascinating text from 2018 by Zhu Feng titled The Way of Nature. What's really incredible about this source is how it takes these massive, abstract, cosmic concepts, like the Tao, and distills them down into a remarkably clear, binary framework for evaluating our crazy modern lives. Let's see exactly how this philosophy maps directly onto your daily existence.
But right off the bat, before we get bogged down in any heavy philosophical definitions, I want you to answer this honestly for yourself. Are you currently feeling happy and free, or are you feeling anxious and sorrowful? Now, this isn't just a rhetorical hook to get your attention. Zhu Feng actually uses this exact question as a literal emotional litmus test in the text. According to the source, your current emotional state isn't just random. It's a direct, diagnostic indicator of whether you're naturally flowing with the universe or if you're actively fighting against it. Keep your answer in the back of your mind as we move forward.
Okay, let's dive into this. The text defines nature, or the Tao, as the laws, principles, and operating programs of the boundless universe. But I really want to draw your attention to the second half of that definition, without artificial interference. To follow nature, the text argues, means you have to think and act strictly in accordance with these universal laws. Crucially, it means choosing not to artificially intervene, alter, or try to forcefully change the universe's original operating programs.
You know, the text gets wonderfully poetic when describing what it actually feels like to align with those operating programs. It says, the main path is easy to walk on, simple and easy to walk on, smooth and soothing. The source explicitly promises that stepping onto the natural path is meant to be deeply comforting, smooth, and soothing. It sets up a really stark contrast to the modern hustle culture we're also used to, pointing out that any behaviors that violate nature instantly become complicated, difficult, torturous, and just flat-out painful. And hey, that brings us right back to our initial emotional test. The indicators of walking the way of nature are super clear. Feeling that life is happy, joyous, free, and blessed. On the flip side, walking against the Tao means a life full of troubles, pain, anxiety, and sorrow. The author is completely unambiguous here. Your daily emotional state is the ultimate, undeniable proof of which of these two paths you are currently walking on.
Section 1. The diverging paths, following versus forcing.
So it's one thing to understand the universe on a cosmic level, right? But how do we actually apply it to a Tuesday afternoon? The text uses this rhythmic, almost hypnotic repetition about timing. Following nature means you eat when you should eat and sleep when you should sleep. Going against it, you eat when you shouldn't, and you stay awake when you really should be sleeping. It covers drinking, acting, playing, living. The text suggests that even our absolute simplest daily actions constantly branch off into these two distinct paths, based entirely on whether we are forcing things out of their proper season.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the text's total, radical rejection of what society normally tells us is necessary for a good life. Do not worry, do not expect, do not make plans. Yep, throw out your 5-year plan. The text literally advises you to do nothing, as everything will eventually fall into place. It advocates for associating with others naturally, acting in accordance with your intrinsic nature, and simply taking advantage of opportunities as they organically arise, completely free from the rigid structures of planning.
Conversely, consider the immense burdens of going against the Tao. The text calls out worrying, getting angry, persisting, expecting. It warns against seeking shortcuts, forced success, or even chasing magical powers. It really highlights the sheer exhaustion of setting goals, insisting on owning houses and cars, glorifying your ancestors, or wanting to be a celestial being. As we look at these insatiable desires, you can practically feel the heavy, exhausting anxiety of carrying all these unnatural societal pressures on your shoulders.
Let's move on to Section 2, the results, benefits, consequences, and energy.
And this brilliantly illustrates the undeniable benefits of the natural path: calmness, peace, deep joy, robust health, and less sin. But if you fight the Tao, the text says you face a disastrous reality. You end up chronically impetuous, distracted, constantly dogged by bad luck, and committing evil again and again. The text frames the unnatural path not just as tiring, but as this continuous, unavoidable cycle of compounding disasters. All of this builds into a seriously fascinating conceptual framework of human consciousness. The text introduces a highly specific metric, 540.
Referencing the Hawkins energy and emotion hierarchy diagram, the source asserts that following nature elevates you to a consciousness level above 540, and it makes a massive, absolute claim about this high energy state. It asserts that this energy level is what confirms a person is heading directly to heaven. But immediately contrasting that is the number 200. If you try to force outcomes and carry those heavy burdens we discussed earlier, your energy drops drastically below 200. The source explicitly states that those operating at this deficit, meaning those going against the Tao, are headed straight for the animal world and hell. It is an incredibly stark, absolute binary drawn directly from this energy hierarchy.
All right, let's bring the whole shebang together and review the core framework we've unpacked today. Natural actions lead to feelings of joy, which results in an energy above 540, culminating in heaven. On the flip side, forced actions lead to anxiety and pain, dropping your energy below 200, which the text dictates leads to hell and the animal world. This matrix captures the entire essence of Shufeng's document in one highly structured, overarching view.
Which leaves us with a final, incredibly vital question for you to think about. Are you ready to stop forcing things and start flowing with nature? Based on this text, the operating program of the universe is already running perfectly and endlessly. You simply have to decide if you're going to keep fighting it or if you're going to drop your plans and walk the smooth, soothing path. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.